my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday video where I answer your questions. Each week, people ask me a bunch of questions, and the next week I answer them. So, got some pretty cool questions. This should be a pretty fun episode. First question comes from Robbie Josephs, who wrote, would you slab Silver Age keys between a 3.5 and a 6.5 grade? It really depends on the key for the most part. Like if I had them raw, I would try to have it where the value of that 3.0 to 6.5 grade is at least $300. $300 is kind of that nice mark where it's worth it getting graded. So if a 3.0 like Avengers 1, well, that's probably a couple $1,000 book. It's worth getting graded. You know, there's a bunch, I actually have a bunch of even low grade Silver Age books that are in the 2s. So yeah, if it's a valuable book, get it graded. Amazing Fantasy 15, get it graded. You know, there's certain ones that make sense to get graded. If they're minor keys, generally, as I said, that threshold of $300 or more is a good way to kind of benchmark whether or not you should get it graded. Now, higher grade ones actually do make sense in a way too. So would you get higher grade slabs of non-keys prior to 1965? So there are books that are actually harder to find because they're not keys. And I actually was watching a auction where Dr. Solar books were coming up, and I actually know somebody that was buying them, and they were buying ones that were high grade. They were above a 9, usually 9.4 to 9.8 kind of range, and they're just incredibly rare because there weren't that many saved at that high grade. So getting those graded makes total sense, and they would go for $1,000 to $2,000. So pretty big, cost associated to those books. Now, I'm personally in the kind of opinion that I like books graded. I like my slabs. So sometimes, even if it's not of that value, I like buying like affordable high grade books. So actually I almost bought one that was like a 9.2, I believe it was 9.2. But I kind of backed out at the last second because I already had the book, but I was debating about buying it in a high grade. So it's one of those ones where, and it was like $100. It was a high grade first appearance even, but not a major key. So yeah, so sometimes like just having the book so you can display it, I kind of like doing that. So personally, if you're doing it as an investment, you're looking for that $300 or more in value, because that kind of justifies getting it graded. And that applies to high grade books. You really have to look at what the census is. And sometimes you can win where there's just certain books. I've seen it where, even with modern books, where you can get books graded that nobody else will bother getting graded. Like a good example is like X-Force #1 or some like obscure book that nobody really cares about and wouldn't really bother getting graded. But then when you try to resell those, actually they can sell for a fair amount compared to the overall cost of getting it graded and the book itself. The book itself is a dollar bin book, but getting it at a 9.8, you can find them and then just get it at a 9.8, and you can get maybe anywhere from $60 to $100 for that same book. So there is like an opportunity there, even with modern books, but especially so with older books. So if you find a collection of high grade Silver Age, probably some of that would be worth grading, even if they're non-keys, because people like getting those run fillers, and there's value there. So and finding those high grade Silver Age books is quite hard. So so definitely there is potential there. Okay, next question comes from I Like What I Buy. Can you please show some Atomic Explosion covers? I have a few in my collection, not a big collection of Atomic Explosion ones, but I have some of the better ones. I have some of the key ones. The first one, this is what I consider the poor man's Atomic Explosion cover. This is Atomic Attack, And it's a really great one. You got all the Chinese, red Chinese running away. And this is obviously the Korean War. And it's like, I'll fight in tomorrow's war. And yeah, so atomic attack. It's nice, mushroom cloud in the background. Next one, this one's a little bit of a underrated one. Not many people realize this one, but this is Beware, and it is an atomic explosion. You can see like right here the mushroom cloud, and then it goes up into this weird shrunken head thing. So this is a kind of an interesting one. It is an atomic explosion cover that's a little under the radar. Not many people know about it. So this is Beware number 10 from 1952 or 53, somewhere around there. When the atomic explosion happened, it really did, make people think about it, and it really started the atomic age of comics. So from 1946 all the way up to the 1960 even, or considered atomic age. And atomic explosion covers kind of were the cool thing of that era. It's also where a lot of the tropes of radioactive stuff making people mutate or making monsters and stuff like that comes about. So atomic explosion covers are very popular from that era. Okay, so that's Beware number 10. Here's another great one. I'm going to take it out of the plastic, actually. And this is Captain Marvel Jr. And it's number 53. And this is from 1947. And the atomic bomb on the loose, it says. So this is an atomic explosion. You see the mushroom cloud behind him. And his cape is kind of bellowing in the explosion. Looks like he's like, part of the explosion. So I think it's really cool one. I like the fact that it goes right up through the trade dress, which is really cool. It's just a really great Captain Marvel Jr. cover. So yeah, so that's from 1947, and it was actually done by Bud Thompson. And next one, this is probably the most famous of the atomic explosion covers. And this is World War III, number 1. And it's one where the Capitol building is getting blown up by the nuclear explosion. So I don't think it would look like this. This thing would just be, it would just explode. It would just be, there would be nothing there. But they had to make it look like the Capitol building, even though it might be a little unrealistic, that it would even look like that. It'd just be flattened. So yeah. So this is from Ace Periodicals, 1953, and it's just a classic atomic explosion cover, World War III, number 1. So that's my atomic explosion collection. As I said, I don't have a huge collection of atomic explosion ones, but I have a few of the bigger ones, I would say. Okay, next question comes from Archivist Adrift. Question for next week. I'm a huge Lou Fine fan. Do you have any of his books with his work? And I do. I have a couple. But just quickly, Lou Fine was born in 1914 and lived until 1971. He was really young. He was only 56 when he died. So, but he really wasn't involved with comics for very long. He got into comics in 1938 and only worked in comics until 1944. After that, he did for newspaper strips and stuff like that. So he left comics pretty early on. But his body of work in comics are highly sought after by collectors. His first published work in comics was actually Jumbo Comics number 4. So if you ever want to get his first appearance, well, it's Jumbo Comics number 4. And he used a bunch of aliases. In Jumbo Comics number 4, for example, he was Fred Sand. And then he was also known as Kenneth Lewis, and there was Williams, and he had a whole bunch of different aliases that he would use as names for himself. The interesting thing is Jack Kirby cited Lou Fine as being his favorite artist. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm going to show you the two books that I have that are Lou Fine. This one's actually a pretty cool one. This first one is Feature Comics number 30, and it is the first cover appearance of Dollman, which all this was drawn by Lou Fine, which is kind of cool. Lou Fine was actually a draftsman, and he would use that technical skill to sort of bring a lot of life to his covers. Probably his most famous one is the one where it's like the robot cover, where you can see this, like all the little gears in the fingers and stuff like that. But I don't have that one. That's a really expensive book. But this is a good example of a Lou Fine as well. My other Lou Fine, I don't really, as I said, I don't have too many Lou Fines. I just have the two. Is Spirit number 1. And it's just a classic cover as well. Like he's coming out of the graveyard. So the spirit would live in the graveyard. That's where he lived. This is him coming out with his sidekick, Ebony. And yeah, so this is Spirit number 1 from 1944. So this is right at the end of Lou Fine's career in comics. So those are the only two I have. Actually, the interesting thing with Lou Fine, he would actually do a lot of ghost art for Will Eisner. And he actually worked for when he first got his work in comics, it was actually through the Will Eisner and Iger house. So yeah, but sadly, that's all I have. I do enjoy Lou Fine's work, but I don't really have much of it in my collection. But I did have a couple. Do have a couple. Okay. Thanks for asking the questions. I'm sure, not sure that Zatara has been in any main film or TV series. If he has, assume you are saving for that first appearance or not. Okay, so this was from Deadman. So this is a funny question. So Zatara. So last week I was talking about how I collect key characters from TV series or movies that I watch, and I also I just generally like first appearances in comics. And one of the characters that is a really cool character, actually the father of Zatana, is Zatara. And I don't have his first appearance. His first appearance was in Action Comics number 1, which just happens to be another character's first appearance, which is Superman number 1, Superman's first appearance. So Zatara is one of those characters that is really interesting. He's a magician, similar to Zatana. Okay, Nathan Appel wrote, what is the first Golden Age Frazetta drawn Ghost Rider? Well, that was in Tim Holt number 17. He did the cover for that book as well. So Frazetta would do a bunch of the covers for Tim Holt, and he did a lot of the Ghost Rider covers. So a lot of people collect those Ghost Rider covers from Tim Holt, the Tim Holt run, that were Frazetta covers. There's a lot of Frazetta covers that really enjoy his work. So if you ever want to get Frazetta's first artwork on Ghost Rider, well, it's in Tim Holt number 17. So just remember 17. Yeah, great artist. That's a book that's a bit pricey. Okay, so the next question comes from Patriot. And Patriot asks me this question pretty much on the daily basis. He asked me this a lot, so I just added it to the questions for this week. Do you have any Sea Devils? I do. I have a few. Just a couple. Actually, not that many Sea Devils. And both of them are Go-Go Check ones. We got this one. Sea Devils number 32. It's a pretty cool cover. Deep Six Time Trap. So that's that one. I don't even know why I picked this up. I don't know where. I don't even know why I have that. But and then another one. Actually, I have more Sea Devils. I gotta find the rest of them. This is Sea Devils number 29. And it's a pretty cool one. The underwater monstery thing. So yeah. So those are Sea Devils. So those are my Sea Devils. I think I have like 2 or 3 others. I know I have some Good Girl ones. So I'm not sure where those are. But those are some of my Sea Devils. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Okay, last question. And kind of the big question of this video actually is from my friend Carrie in Denmark. He wrote, do you prefer Golden Age? Why do you prefer Golden Age covers over modern covers? So I'm going to give you an example of a typical, like I try to pick typical versus typical, and you'll see what I mean by that. So we have like a typical modern comic. So this is actually a comic cover that I really like. This is Gwenpool #1. You got, typical kind of pose picture. And this is like very typical. I think this is a Zerdy too, isn't it? I'm not sure who did this one. Who did this one? I have no idea. Okay. But okay. So this is a typical modern comic. You got a pose. You got, well drawn. Nothing wrong with it. Looks pretty great. And, I do like this cover. But now we compare it to a Golden Age book. And the part of the thing for me, Golden Age books have a bit of charm, like that historical charm. Like there's a different style. This one's very polished looking. Now you look at a Golden Age comic. This is not as polished looking. Like if you look at this one, it looks very polished in terms of everything. It's almost like a gloss to the suit and everything. It's very polished looking. There's a bit more rawness to Golden Age art. But the big thing for me, and the reason I really like Golden Age comics, is when you look at them, they tell a story. Even if they didn't have the word bubbles, which I also like. I actually like word bubbles. They tell a story. So if I didn't see all these word bubbles, you'd still see the girls on the propeller. You see Airboy is just about to get into the cockpit of the plane. He's blindfolded, and this is his girlfriend. So he's going to take her out for a spin, and probably she's not going to do so well if she does go for a spin. So yeah, it's a pretty cool cover. You got the whole story just in one image. Whereas this, what's the story? There's not much of a story here. There's just nothing. It's a pose. And I find that modern books are much more about that. It's much more a pose situation. It's not really, there's no story being told by the cover. And, it can be nice. It's a nice picture, but it's not a story. It's not engaging. The difference for me is, you buy modern books because the cover looks cool. You say, oh, that's a nice picture of a sexy girl on the cover. You buy a Golden Age book based on, oh, what happens? How does she survive this situation? How does he survive this situation? You're curious. It makes you curious. You want to go in and read the story. So that's why I like Golden Age books. They really pull you in. They bring you into the story, into the book. You want to read more, find out what's going on. And I could show like hundreds of examples. In my shows, I do show hundreds of examples of different Golden Age covers that have that kind of feel of like telling a story, bringing you into the comic. Even ones like that aren't like that are poses. Like I look at the one behind me. You got Black Cat Comics #1. Okay, that's a pose cover. It's not a bad cover. It's not a great cover for the Golden Age. However, even in that case, she's driving her motorbike. You know, you can see something's about to happen. You know, there's still some story. It's not a full-fledged out story, but you know, fleshed out story, I should say. But it is, you know, something is happening. Whereas I find the modern books don't really have that. And it's kind of one of the things that makes me not appreciate modern books as much. I find that after a while, like I feel like it's repetitive as well in the modern books. It's like the same poses over and over again. You know, looks good, but how many times can you see the same kind of action poses or standing poses and, you know, pretty girl on the cover? It can get a little bit boring after a while. So I do like the Golden Age for that much, for that as well. They're much more dynamic in terms of the content on the covers as well. They're all over the place, whereas modern books are a little bit more stale. So that's just my opinion. You can tell me in the comments below that I'm wrong. I don't mind. You can put those comments in the comments below. And if you want to ask a question for next week, please just put it in the comments below and I'll answer it next week. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.